Before we start the movie, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. The movie begins with a man named Mike, who is exercising and jogging. Suddenly, a masked man appears, attacks him, and kills him. 6 months pass since Mike's murder, but no one knows who the real killer is. On that day, we see Mike's wife, named Cheryl, waking up her son, Anthony, to go to school. We learn that Anthony has been suffering from depression and sadness since his father's death, and despite Cheryl's repeated attempts to help him overcome it, she fails every time. Anthony leaves his mother and goes to school, where we find out that he is being bullied by his classmates. When Anthony opens his locker, he finds many pictures of his mother, which upsets him. Suddenly, his classmate, Brant, appears and continues to harass him, making Anthony angry but too afraid to confront him. At that moment, a new student named Dylan appears at school and asks Brant to stop bullying Anthony. Brant gets scared and backs off. Anthony returns to his class, and at the end of the day, he goes back to his locker again, where he keeps watching a girl named Megan, whom he has loved for a long time but has been unable to confess his feelings to. Dylan, who is observing Anthony, decides to introduce him to Megan. He approaches her and introduces Anthony, saying they have been old friends. Megan agrees to meet him again and leaves. Dylan then tells Anthony that he is doing this because they share the same pain. Dylan also lost his father 2 years ago and hasn't gotten over his death, so he wants to help Anthony move on. Meanwhile, Cheryl is on her way to work, where she meets a police officer named Teddy, who is investigating Mike's murder case. Teddy tells her that he still hasn't found the killer. Through their conversation, we learn that he is an old friend of Cheryl and has feelings for her, but she does not reciprocate them. Cheryl says goodbye and heads to work. After finishing work, she returns home, only to find that Anthony hasn't come back from school yet. She remains anxious while waiting for him, but he eventually arrives with Dylan, who introduces himself as Anthony's new friend who always helps him. Anthony tells his mother that they have decided to throw a party at home that evening. That night, Anthony's friends gather at the house to celebrate. Anthony spends most of his time with Megan, while Dylan focuses on Cheryl, staring at her in a way that catches her attention. At one point, Dylan leaves the party and enters Cheryl's bedroom, where he finds a picture of her with her husband and son. He stares at it for a long time. Suddenly, Cheryl enters and asks him what he is doing. He apologizes, saying he was looking for the bathroom and ended up here by mistake, then leaves. A few days later, a list of students selected for the football team is published, and Anthony finds his name on the list. He becomes very happy and thanks Dylan for his help. At that moment, Megan passes by, and Dylan encourages Anthony to talk to her and ask her out. Anthony agrees and asks Megan to go out with him over the weekend, and she accepts. By the end of the day, Anthony is extremely happy because he will finally go on a date with Megan. Dylan hands him his car keys and tells him to enjoy his day. Meanwhile, Dylan and Cheryl enter the house, where Dylan apologizes to Cheryl for spending most of his time with them, saying that he wants to study because if he goes home, he won't be able to focus. Cheryl tells him that he is like her son and that he can treat the house as if it were his own, but deep inside, she admires his boldness. She leaves and goes upstairs to take a shower. Taking advantage of the moment, Dylan follows her upstairs and confesses that he is attracted to her. She weakens and engages in a relationship with him. Afterward, Dylan and Cheryl leave the house before Anthony returns. When Anthony comes back, he notices that Dylan and his mother are acting tense, but he doesn't pay much attention and goes to sleep to prepare for the next school day. Cheryl goes to work, and her relationship with Dylan develops further as they start meeting at her old house to avoid being seen. One day, Brant goes to Dylan at school and tells him that he has been watching him to find out what he is hiding. He threatens to expose him in front of everyone. Dylan becomes afraid that Brant will discover the truth, so he decides to get rid of him. Dylan approaches Anthony, and they come up with a plan to expel Brant from school. Dylan injures himself and goes to the football field, where he hits Brant and then tells the coach that Brant stabbed him with a knife. Detective Teddy arrives at the school to investigate the incident, and Cheryl also comes to check on Anthony and Dylan. Anthony claims that he saw Brant attack Dylan and injure him, leading to Brant's expulsion from school. Anthony returns home with his mother, and Cheryl talks to him about his recent change in behavior. He tells her that she has never cared about him and knows nothing about him. He also reveals that he hates her because she cheated on his father 2 years ago. At this moment, we learn that Cheryl had an affair with a coworker, which almost destroyed her marriage with Mike. However, they stayed together for Anthony's sake. After his father's death, Anthony saw his mother disposing of his father's belongings, which made him suspect that she hated his father and was happy about his death. He even began to suspect that she might have been involved in his murder. Cheryl argues with Anthony and defends herself, saying that she loved Mike just as much as he did and that she regretted her betrayal. She claims that she confessed her affair to Mike out of guilt and ended things with the other man immediately after. Cheryl becomes upset that Anthony doubts her and leaves him to go to his room. In the evening, Dylan calls Cheryl and asks her to meet him at the old house. She goes to see him and tells him that she is upset about her conversation with her son. Dylan tries to comfort her, gets closer, and kisses her. At that moment, a stranger passes by and takes a picture of them. It turns out that Dylan had arranged this to blackmail Cheryl and take revenge on her for an old mistake she made. The next day, Cheryl arrives at work only to find that the video of her with Dylan has gone viral online. She feels that her life has been ruined and that she is about to be publicly exposed. She tells her assistant that they must act quickly to find out who leaked the video. Meanwhile, Megan also sees the video, rushes to Anthony, and shows it to him. She tells him that Brant had been suspicious of Dylan for a long time and that he had been getting close to Anthony to reach his mother. Anthony feels devastated and returns home. At the same time, Dylan waits for Megan and threatens her, telling her that she must help him or he will kill her. He takes her to his house and sends a message to Anthony from her phone, making her say that she wants to meet and talk with him. She sends him Dylan's home address. Anthony rushes to the location, but when he arrives, he does not find Megan and has no idea what is happening. He starts calling for her, but no one responds. Suddenly, Dylan appears behind him and drugs him, causing Anthony to lose consciousness. When Anthony wakes up, he finds himself tied to a tree in the forest alongside Megan. She tells him that Dylan kidnapped them and is going to kill her. At the same time, Cheryl receives a message from an unknown number, asking her to meet at her second home. She becomes frightened and calls Detective Teddy, asking him to accompany her there. Cheryl arrives first and finds the door open. Upon entering, she sees a video playing on the TV. It shows her with the man she had an affair with 2 years ago, playing with his son on the beach. Suddenly, Dylan appears and tells her that the man in the video is his father. He reveals that when Cheryl entered their lives, she destroyed his family. His mother found out about the affair, confronted his father, and a fight broke out, leading to a car accident that killed them both. Dylan blames Cheryl for everything that happened and confesses that he was the one who killed Mike as revenge. He also reveals that he has been planning for 2 years to kill her and her son. Dylan tells Cheryl that she must kill herself to save her son. She agrees and takes the knife, but at the last moment, she tricks him, stabs him in the leg, and escapes. Before she can leave the house, she runs into Teddy and tells him where Dylan is and that he tried to kill her. Teddy rushes to the lower floor, but Dylan has already escaped. Teddy calls another police officer to get Dylan's home address, and they both head there to find Anthony. When they arrive, Anthony is nowhere to be found, but Cheryl notices a rope in the room, leading her to believe that Dylan has tied Anthony up somewhere nearby. She and Teddy run toward the forest to save Anthony before Dylan kills him. On the way, Teddy struggles to breathe due to a medical condition and stops to take his medication. Cheryl leaves him behind and continues running to save her son. Suddenly, Dylan appears behind Teddy and stabs him in the side, causing him to collapse. Dylan takes Teddy's gun and chases after Cheryl. When he catches up to her, he tells her that Teddy is dead because of her and that she must die too. At that moment, Anthony and Megan manage to free themselves. Anthony runs to stand in front of his mother to protect her. Dylan tells Anthony that Cheryl is the reason his father died, but Anthony refuses to believe him. He declares his love for his mother and defends her. Suddenly, Megan appears behind Dylan and hits him. Anthony also attacks him, but Dylan manages to knock them both down. Cheryl jumps on Dylan, tackles him to the ground, and grabs the gun from him. She strikes him, knocking him unconscious. She is about to kill him, but Anthony stops her, telling her that she will be imprisoned if she does, and that he cannot live without her. Cheryl puts down the gun and decides not to kill Dylan. Teddy eventually recovers from the stab wound, and months later, he and Cheryl confess their love for each other and get married. Cheryl and Anthony's lives return to normal. Anthony's relationship with Megan grows stronger, and he is finally happy after overcoming his grief for his father. If you enjoyed the movie, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content.